I don't know if at this point it's going to make a difference, but I at least need to know that I contributed. I need to speak out against the ban on TikTok. I am posting this, of course, on TikTok, but I am also putting it on YouTube so I can share it via other platforms. I'm a resident of upstate New York, so I will be forwarding this to Senators Gillibrand and Schumer, as well as Representatives Tonko and Stefanik, and any others I can think of. If you had asked me what I thought of a TikTok ban a year ago, I would have said, get rid of it, who cares? It's silly and it's rotting our children's brains. I probably would have even believed all the rhetoric and hyperbolic propaganda that TikTok is being or will be weaponized by the Chinese government in the modern day info wars in which we are now so deeply entrenched. And while I do understand that data security is a very real concern, my views of TikTok and its usefulness and purpose in the lives of the more than 170 million Americans who use it has changed drastically. You see, about a year ago, I embarked on a new journey in my life. As a middle-aged mom, a high school graduate, soon to be a college student, I've reached a place where I am at last able to pursue a dream I put on hold more than 20 years ago. I hold both bachelor's and master's degrees in the performing arts/humanities, and I have spent the last 20 years working my day job and focusing on my kids. But last year, I finally produced and released one of my original songs, and I put it up on the internet. This was a huge first for me, something I dreamed of doing for a long time, and I'm committed to continuing on this journey with the catalog of music that I've written and compilated over the years. I only joined TikTok this past August as part of my plan to promote my new venture. I'm not here to share some joyous, overwhelming story of overnight success, how I went viral and all my dreams came true. It has been anything but that. Promoting my music online has been a lonely, difficult, and frustrating pursuit, and learning how to navigate various online platforms has been hard. To that end, I'd just like to say here and now to anyone who thinks creating online content isn't a real job and it's just silly or easy, you try it. It's a lot harder than it looks. But this is where I want to talk specifically about TikTok. You see, as hard as it's been, TikTok is the only platform that has yielded any results for me at all. Not only have I managed to build a small but supportive following on TikTok, but I have found resources, fellow artists and collaborators. A community is forming in my world that I didn't have before. I want to stress this and be clear. TikTok has provided me with far more than any other platform, especially the meta platforms. I hear a lot of chatter about how the TikTok algorithm is dangerous. I find that curious. You see, I've been on TikTok, a meta user, since practically the beginning, and yet despite having hundreds of contacts on Facebook, many of whom are on Instagram, and many of whom I know in real life, I have not been able to connect my music to any new users. Heck, I'm not even sure my friends see it. You know, those Facebook friends that I've had for more than a decade? Sadly, meta platforms seem to be committed to keeping me in a very small circle of influence daily, with my feed being far more advertisements, selling me products, than it is building connections or community. I also see the same small circle of people posting over and over again, while others seem to be floating out there in space, never to be seen again. Hey, Facebook, where are you keeping all my friends? So back to TikTok. While TikTok does have sponsored ads, they are by far fewer, and my interactions through TikTok have connected me to over 3,000 new followers, only about 10 of whom are people I know in real life. Remember, I just joined TikTok 5 months ago, but I've been on Facebook for over a decade. That's a pretty fascinating difference. Not only have I found a place for creating and sharing my art like many people, yes, I have been learning about other subjects and people, and yes, I get news on TikTok. Remember a second ago I mentioned I have bachelor's and master's degrees in the performing arts and humanities. I follow many reputable scholars and professionals on TikTok. I am deeply saddened by the arguments I have heard from Republicans and Democrats alike that it is somehow dangerous to allow Americans to hear news and information from TikTok. Really? Really? The same people who just 8 years ago began the protests and witch hunts against mainstream media, who attacked legacy media, which now is owned almost completely by billionaires and private interests. So let's talk about that. Fox News had to admit it is not in fact a news source, but entertainment. ABC was the only network I had any faith left in at all, and it's conceded in a settlement just for doing its job. Bezos has vetoed editorial content that he feels is unfavorable of himself. And X was purchased by Musk, who flooded the platform with his own opinions and propaganda and suppressed any dissenters in order to support his newly elected bromance buddy. And just last week, Zuckerberg came out saying he no longer will utilize fact checkers, and he's lowering restrictions on hate speech. Facts no longer matter. We cannot trust legacy media, but somehow we can't trust each other, the more than 170 million other Americans sharing information solely because it's on TikTok. And why is Congress so worried about what is being shared on TikTok? I guess all the investigations into how Russia and Putin and the factories of trolls and bots who spread disinformation faster and more effectively than COVID is no longer concerning, since the InfoWars paid off in the end, and for the alt-right and their collection of alternative facts. But I'm supposed to fear the Chinese. Really? Has it occurred to anyone that China doesn't even have to do anything at this point to destroy our country? They can just sit back now and eat their popcorn. But I digress. As far as information and indoctrination go, I just have to say this. Republicans love to talk about how big government has no place in our personal lives, how government overreaches everywhere, and Americans deserve freedom to make their own choices in everything. Well, at least men do anyways. But big government needs to keep its nose out of Americans' business. Free enterprise, freedom from capitalism, and everywhere we look, we hear that Americans are being indoctrinated by some nefarious outsider. I feel it's important to remind those who would claim this to be true that indoctrination is not just the feeding of information to a group of people. It is also the suppression of any dissenting opinions, the suppression of free speech, the suppression of shared ideas and communications. TikTok may well be imperfect, but the 170 million Americans who use it have the right, according to our Constitution, to utilize free speech and free press. Moments ago, I mentioned the fact that our press is no longer free, but held captive to private interests. The more than 7 million Americans using TikTok to engage in business and earn their livelihoods through it deserve to maintain that opportunity, free from the overreaching government meddling that conservatives love to shout about. Americans have a right to share information, education, entertainment, and yes, news. We deserve the freedom to make these choices for ourselves. And it's sad that Congress only feels government overreach is happening when it's happening to them or the corporations or wealthy individuals who fund their campaigns. I could go on, but to return to my original point, I'm just a middle-aged mom in upstate New York trying to share her music with the world. To those who think creating content on social media isn't a real job, I would like to suggest you try it. It takes a lot more than you'd think. And the economic impact of taking away the source of more than 7 million small businesses and creators is not an economic impact any Congress member needs going into primaries. The last jobs report of 2024 came out just last week, and I believe it mentioned upwards of 250,000 new jobs added to our economy. Don't kid yourselves into thinking that slamming the door on 7 million small businesses and creators won't rip into that statistic like a tornado through a trailer park. Senators Gillibrand and Schumer, Representatives Tonko and Stefanik, I am calling you out to do the right thing. No, I don't have wild success stories to share about going viral and having my life changed on TikTok. But I would sure like the opportunity to keep trying, and I need it, because Meta is deada. For the sake of creators, for the sake of businesses and our basic liberties, do the right thing. Extend the deadline on the TikTok ban and seek a better solution than an outright ban.